They told him there was no hope, that he had sinned too much, strayed too far, and he believed it. His heart was heavy with guilt, his mind haunted by the countless sins he had committed. He feared Allah's punishment so deeply that he tried to escape it, even in death. But what happened next was something no one could have imagined. This is the story of a man who thought his sins were beyond forgiveness. A man who had spent his life in darkness, believing that the gates of mercy had closed for him forever. He was not just a sinner. He was a man who had lived his entire life without care for right or wrong. He had stolen from the innocent, deceived those who trusted him, and crushed the hearts of the weak. He was a man who took pride in his power, never looking back at the destruction he left behind. People feared him, but no one truly respected him. He lived as if he would never be held accountable. The scholars warned him. The righteous reminded him. But he only laughed. If there is a judgment, he would say, I'll deal with it then. But judgment was not far away. Years passed. His youth faded. The strength he once boasted of began to leave him. His body weakened. His breath became labored. And for the first time in his life, he felt small. The sins he had ignored now haunted him. The people he had wronged could not be undone. The lies he had told could not be erased. And now, he was running out of time. The fear crept in. It gripped his heart tighter each night. He remembered the punishments he once mocked, the fire that never ends, the darkness of the grave, the weight of standing before Allah with nothing but regret. And he knew that he was doomed. But then, an idea came to him. A desperate, foolish idea. If he could not escape punishment in life, maybe he could escape in death. With trembling hands, he called his sons. "Are my sons?" he whispered, his voice weak. "When I die, burn my body. Scatter my ashes into the wind and into the sea." His sons looked at him with confusion. "Father, why?" His lips quivered as he took a deep breath. "Because if Allah gets hold of me, he will punish me like no one else." His sons had never seen their father like this. Afraid, helpless. The man they had feared now lay before them, trembling at the thought of meeting his Lord. And so, when the time came, they did as he asked. His body was burned. His ashes were cast to the wind, carried away by the sea. It was his final attempt to disappear, to avoid judgment. But nothing is hidden from Allah. No soul is beyond his reach. With a single command, the earth obeyed. The sea surrendered. The wind released what it had taken. The ashes scattered across land and ocean came together once. The man who thought he could escape found himself standing before the one he had feared the most. And then the question came. A voice beyond comprehension, beyond time and space, asked him, "What made you do this?" This was the moment of truth. There were no lies to hide behind. No excuses left. Nothing but the raw reality of his heart. With a voice shaking with sincerity, he uttered the only truth that remained. "My fear of you, O Allah." And then, something happened that defied all expectations. Despite everything, despite the years of sin, despite his own belief that he was beyond saving, straightforward, Allah, in his infinite mercy, forgave him. The angels witnessed it. The heavens bore witness to it, that the mercy of Allah is beyond human comprehension. But his story is not the only one. There was another man, one whose sins were even darker. A murderer, not just once, not twice, but 99 times. He was feared across the land. He was known for his cruelty, for the way he killed without hesitation, without remorse. And for years, he felt nothing, no regret, no second thoughts. But one day, something in his heart stirred. He didn't know why. But for the first time, he wondered, could he be forgiven? Could a man like him ever escape the weight of his crimes? And so he sought out a scholar and asked, "I have killed 99 people. Is there any chance for me?" The scholar, horrified by his crimes, responded, "Enough. There is no forgiveness for someone like you." And just like that, his rage took over. And the scholar became his 100th victim. But something still gnawed at him. The question remained. And so he sought out another scholar. He asked the same question. This time, the answer was different. "Yes," the scholar said, "but you must leave this place of sin, travel to a land of righteousness and start anew." And so, for the first time in his life, the man set out on a journey of repentance. He left behind his weapons, his past, his sins. He had taken the first step toward Allah. But before he could reach his destination, before he could take the first step into his new life, death took him. The angels of mercy and the angels of punishment descended, arguing over his soul. He was a sinner. The angels of punishment said he belonged to a land of corruption. But he was seeking forgiveness. The angels of mercy responded. His heart had turned back to Allah, And so Allah commanded the earth to measure the distance. If the man was closer to the land of righteousness, he would be forgiven. If he was closer to his old life, his fate would be sealed. Sealed. And by Allah's mercy, the earth itself shifted, bringing him closer to his new beginning, and he was granted forgiveness. 2 men, 2 lives of sin, 2 stories that prove one eternal truth. Allah's mercy is greater than any sin. So when you think you have no place in heaven, remember, heaven still has room. Because no matter how lost you feel, no matter how dark your past may be, if you turn back to Him, He will welcome you. The door is never closed. The question is, will you take the first step